welcome to SMX Insider. This is a really fun one to do. We're the Jasons, Wygant, and Thomas. We're previewing the Pro Motocross Championship that kicks off this Saturday at Fox Raceway, Pala in Southern California. So this is like a whiteboard meeting, JT. We could throw anything we want out here to talk about the differences between motocross and what we just saw in Monster Energy AMA Supercross, or the talent, or the expectations. Any direction you want to go. I'm going to start with a 22 moto win streak from last year that's still in the line. Or is it just that feeling of being back to the great outdoors, which is so different than a stadium?
I think it's both. I think for the riders, it is the perfect opportunity to do a reset. But yes, that 22 moto win streak is looming over the sport right now. Jett knows it. Everyone he has to compete against knows it. And it's going to be the biggest storyline going in is, can anybody derail the momentum train that is Jett Lawrence?
Yeah, there's still nothing like that first gate drop in the first moto of the year. I always get this sense, JT, tell me if I'm wrong. You were behind the handlebars. Those first couple laps, the track is watered, the lines are not there. Everyone's kind of guessing on how's my bike feel, how's everybody else in comparison to me. I feel like those first couple laps are almost like a warm-up as opposed to an all-out sprint. It's like we're all getting back to motocross.
Yeah, it really does help, though. You know, the stars of the sport will get to ride on Thursday right after the opening press conference. That helps a ton because it's going to be the same layout that they're going to face on Saturday. So it does give them a little bit of a warm-up. I didn't get to do that. So it was absolutely just like you said, those first few laps, it was like, okay, am I even close on bike setup? Because most of these riders have been in Florida riding every single day. They're going to come to Southern California on a track, yes, they know, but this track is very, very different than any other time they will see it throughout the year. So it is always a guessing game. And it's very similar to kind of how Anaheim 1 is. You think you're close, you go into the first round, and you find out if you're right or very, very wrong.
Love it. So we don't know what to expect. We'll talk about it, both 450 and the very wide open 250 class right here on SMX Insider. And let's start with two of the best to ever do it and get their thoughts. Ricky Carmichael and James Stewart. No better way to talk about motocross than to bring in two of the experts, two of the best to ever do it, two guys who will join me in the booth throughout the Pro Motocross summer. I'll go to you first, James Stewart. We'll talk 250 class first, because I think we all know the story in the 450 division. The door is open now. No Lawrence brothers in the 250s. Do you almost look forward to that one more? Because it's pretty wide open right now.
Yeah, I think every year we kind of look forward to the 250 class. It's the one class that's always exciting, and you always look forward to whether it's a rookie or a second-year guy coming out. And I think this year, that's Hayden Deegan. Probably not the Supercross season he wanted, but going up against that, you would think on paper he would probably be your favorite. But I think Tom Vial and the way Levi and RJ, all those guys are riding, I think they're going to have something to say about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, what are you thinking there, RC?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely to what James said, we thought that Hayden was going to be a little bit better here in Supercross. Does he catch fire in the Pro Motocross Series? I mean, as well as he did last year, you just have to assume that he's going to be even better this year. But like James talked about with Levi and RJ and Tom Vial, I mean, that class is going to be so fun to watch each and every weekend, and it's going to be fun to see who's going to be the most consistent in that class.
What are you thinking, JT?
Well, I'm actually over at Honda HRC, and, you know, I think it's all about this team for Pro Motocross. And you think about the two riders that they have to field in the 450 class with Jett Lawrence coming off of his debut season, which was also a perfect season, and then his older brother, Hunter Lawrence, making the jump to the 450 class. So my question for you two gentlemen is, for Jett, how does he stay focused? Because it looks like we may lose Cooper Webb and Eli Tomac to start this 450 championship. So to keep him interested, to keep him locked in and razor focused, both of you had those challenges as well. When you're the best guy, when you're coming off of an undefeated season, how do you stay razor sharp? And then the second part of that, for Hunter Lawrence, what do you see in his rookie year? Can he find the same success that he did in the 250 class, jumping in the 450 class, the deep end of the pool?
How do you think he stays focused? If you're Jett, what are you doing?
I mean, I think Jett's still so young that, I mean, there's a lot that he's chasing, and, you know, he might be chasing Chase. Who knows? I feel like Chase will probably have a better outdoor season if he can come in healthy. Had a chance to talk to him. I think he feels a lot more comfortable outdoors on that bike than maybe even did last year. But, yeah, if we lose Eli, which we will, and then if a possibility with Cooper, I think Jett he's young enough, and with his brother coming up, will kind of keep him focused. And with Hunter, I don't see him replicating what he did last year, only because his younger brother's in the class.
Yeah.
So
That's gonna be tough.
I think Hunter's going to do well. I mean, he's caught fire here late in the season, and he's been strong. He's been consistent. It was rocky at the beginning of Supercross, but I like his chances. Do I think he's going to dominate? Of course not, but I think he's a sleeper. I think he's well capable of being on the podium multiple times, maybe leading some races as well, and it's going to be fun to watch his progression nevertheless. So keep your eye on that guy for sure.
And JT, we're talking about the Honda team. This is a historic thing that keeps happening. Joe Shimoda always comes on late in one championship, and then we go to the next one and say, oh, look out, he has the momentum. So is he one to watch, RC, in the 250s?
I mean, he's got to be,
okay,
right? But I look to see how he starts at championship. He got to a slow start in Supercross.
He did.
Does he do the same thing in outdoor? I hope not, but we know he has the speed to win, right?
Yeah,
So
no, I agree. I feel like last year we saw him, he came out, he was leading the first moto, right?
And then it wasn't very good for a while.
So, I mean, he had a good start to it. I agree with Ricky. It depends on how he comes out at Paula. If he comes out and possibly get a win or on a podium and then backs that up in Hangtown, like, then I think he'll be solid for the season. But, yeah, a lot of these guys, that 250 class is really based off of whether they can be consistent and how Tom Viallo has been racing the Supercross season. I feel like he's going to be that way and short of any DNFs or anything like that. So it's going to be important for all those guys, including Hayden, to just at least get that season started and go from there.
All right. That's what's wild. We have a perfect season still going right now in the 450 division and a wide open 250 class. Thanks for the time, boys. We'll see you at the races. Yes, always great to hear from the riders who are 1 and 2 in combined motocross and supercross career wins on the AMA list. Although Eli Tomac, if he were to stick around long enough, might be a threat there. And that's what we're talking about. Supercross into motocross. This is all part of the 31-round Super Motocross World Championship. On this episode, we're going to get deep into that Jett Lawrence win streak. Who could challenge him? Anyone remember Dylan Ferrandis? Really good outdoors. Chase Sexton seems to be coming on. Rookies moving to the 450 class, opening the door for a wide open 250 championship. This will all be fun, and we'll get into it here. But we want to start with the schedule for the Pro Motocross Championship. We'll show it to you. As mentioned, it starts this Saturday, May 25th at Fox Raceway in Southern California. We go to Northern California and Hangtown the next Saturday. Then Thunder Valley outside of Denver, Colorado next. Then High Point in Pennsylvania, a weekend off. Some iconic tracks here from Southwick and then Redbud. Spring Creek in Minnesota, Washougal in Washington. 2 weekends off, and the stretch run is Unadilla in New York, Budds Creek in Maryland, and Ironman, the finale, outside of Indianapolis. So that's the Pro Motocross calendar, and then we'll have 3 SMX World Championship playoff rounds after that. 30-second board. How are we going to fit all this in here, JT? We'll start with what we touched on at the top, the win streak for Jett Lawrence, which we'll get deeper into with our SMX facts and Clinton Fowler later, but this is so weird to have a carryover win streak from a previous season.
Yeah, I mean, this guy has been a house on fire since he's come into this class. And I would ask you, Jason Wygant, why would we not think that the streak continues? He just won his first ever Monster Energy Supercross Championship in the 450 class. He's going to be up against the same riders that he defeated last year. Eli Tomac's not going to be out there to try to disrupt things. So you tell me, why would we choose anything other than continuance of the streak?
Well, to start, he's unbelievable at Fox Raceway. Like, unbelievable. I think he's won every single race he's ever raced there. Not every moto, but every overall. So let's start there. Chase Sexton has some momentum. Dylan Ferrandis, a real wild card. Some rookies moving up. Start there. But to me, the win streak is more likely to end because of some weird racing luck than someone just beating him for 30+2. I'm sure for Chase Sexton, you don't want to hear that. But that's the question. What do you think, JT? Somehow Carmichael, for like 5 years, didn't have a rock errantly hit apart on a motorcycle or a first turn crash. But shouldn't something like that happen at some point?
You would think so, but, you know, Jett does such a great job of putting himself into positive situations. He gets good starts. Even in the times where he didn't get the whole shot last year, you saw how ferociously he moved forward on the first lap. Then he controls his own destiny. So if you're going to count on something happening to his factory-prepared Honda HRC machine, that doesn't seem like a winning scenario. The odds are against him going perfect again in 2024 just on a mathematical basis. But on a talent level, it's hard not to think that it's very possible.
Wow, that's nuts. So what has happened with Jett taking his 250 titles into the 450 class last year, and now Hunter Lawrence, last year's 250 champ, moving up. A lot of the intrigue is for the 250 National Motocross Championship. You could probably pick 10 or 12 guys who could contend for this. We'll just guess at 6 right now. A lot of it with momentum from Supercross. The Owl and Hampshire are your new champions. Deegan and Kitchen, who are close. Joe Shimoda, who won at the end of the year in Supercross this year and last year in motocross. And then we'll just pick a wild card here in Jordan Smith. Any of the star bikes are usually good, and Smith was very good at Supercross. But this is going to be so fun because I don't know. Do you think any of these guys even know for sure? They probably all think, no, this is mine. They've all got to think they've got this, right?
Yeah, that's the best part of it, is that all of them think that this is their year. And this is what makes our sport so great, is we have no idea what's going to happen. It's almost the complete opposite of what the 450 class offers. You could make a case for any of these riders, and you know this. I'll argue anything with anybody. So just pick a rider, give me one, and I could build a case, a winning case in a court of law as to why he will be our champion this summer. So it's going to be fantastic. I love how much diversity we have, the international aspect to it. But as you mentioned, none of these guys have really been that guy. We've seen flashes. All of these guys, Hayden Deegan looked like he was going to be the guy. RJ Hampshire is coming off his first ever championship. And then you have a guy like Levi Kitchen, who has been fighting consistency, but maybe this is the time where he finally steps up and does that exact thing. Now, if he does, along the way, you've got to think that he's going to get that 300th win for Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki. And I almost feel bad because we've been talking about this storyline for seems like months now, and it hasn't happened. I feel like we might be the jinx, but you got to think Levi Kitchen's going to figure this thing out. He has overall wins. He had 3 moto wins last year, but he's kind of come into his own. I will say, though, to get that win, whether it's he or Austin Faulkner later in the season or any of these guys, the starts are going to be critical because the depth of this class is going to prohibit, I think, a charge from the back.
Yeah, but we're all curious what that bike has to offer. About halfway through motocross last year, that bike got faster. It carried over into Supercross. Kitchen is pulling some unbelievable starts, as were McAdoo and Faulkner before they got hurt. We'll see how that translates. Yeah, the one win, what they really want is a number 1 in the door. But you got to think at an 11-round championship, they'll get 1 win at least. And speaking of Faulkner and really the whole team, Faulkner himself has not recovered enough. He will not be racing Fox Raceway. And now we have heard that both Hamaker and McAdoo have had injuries in preseason testing, and they will not be there either. Sounds like deja vu all over again for this team, JT.
Yeah, it's a tough break, right? And this was a very similar storyline to last year. But I would rather him come back when he's ready to be the guy that we saw in Detroit and in Arlington before that crash that took him out of the series, because that guy can win championships. That guy can win races, and you see him there flying through there. That was the end of his 2024 season to date. But up until that lap, this was Renaissance Austin Faulkner. So let's get that guy back mentally, physically, and I hope that is possible for him to be that guy again, because he can be another name. We saw that graphic with 6 guys that could all win. He could be a 7th guy that could win races week in and week out if he could get back there.
Yeah, and what this does is put that SMX playoff picture in focus, because Faulkner came back last year trying to score points to get into the playoffs. He won't be the only one doing that. Last year, there were privateers that were really cashing in. Grant Harlan at the top. He was so consistent, Supercross and Motocross. This year's Supercross campaign, rough for him. He wants points. And Cody Schock, what can the privateer, Club MX, FXR, Muck-Off, Yamaha team do outdoors with a 250? Historically, 250 motocross, very tough for privateer teams. But Schock's very good outdoors. Same thing for Harlan on a privateer 450. This is their chance to earn points and then make some money in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, and that's the key is locking yourself into a good position, earning some points to start off those SMX playoffs with, and then everything's in front of you. There's so much money at stake. And I remember going through the purse and looking when we were at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum at the finale and looking how much money these guys were going to walk home with that night. All of them have to be thinking about that and positioning themselves going into that. Now let's take a look at those 250 SMX points. And remember, we've had 2 regional series that are going to now be combined into one, into this national series, and of course, the SMX points. Now, RJ Hampshire and Levi Kitchen are out front, but they had to drop a round. That's why they're tied, but they're still out front. But this is where it starts to get interesting. You think about these riders that want to be guaranteed a main event spot. Cole Thompson holds that 20th spot, but summer is going to change all of that. Guys like Phil Nicoletti will jump into the 450 class. So it's going to be an ever-changing dynamic all the way into Ironman.
Yeah, they dropped one West score because they raced one more race than the East. But even with that, to your point, the West riders scored way more points than the East. They were winning more races, I guess, than Vial and Deegan were. So they have a little head start going into motocross. Okay, so now we're going to look at the 450 SMX standings. There's not a drop score or anything here. So you're not going to be surprised to see that Jett Lawrence, Cooper Webb, Chase Sexton, just like they were in Monster Energy AMA Supercross. That's the top. The real thing to watch in this class is the bottom. I'm going to call it the Colt Nichols Award, where Colt snuck into the playoffs last year and made himself about $100,000. And look who's in 20th right now. Nichols, the beta team. They're going to race some Pro Motocross. Will it be enough to keep him in? You mentioned Phil Nicoletti going from 250 to 450. Garrett Marchbanks, his teammate, will do the same. There's a lot of movement here. And JT, some guys right now just outside of that top 20 who you expect to move up, right?
But yeah, you think about Freddie Noren was 8th overall in Pro Motocross Championship points. Of course, he's going to get, as long as he stays healthy and has a year like last year, he's going to jump right into these SMX playoff championship points picture, which is awesome. I love that it constantly changes. You think about what Josh Hill did last year, driving across the country. Colt Nichols, as you mentioned, borrowing a Kawasaki to show up to Washougal. So people are moving heaven and earth because they understand what's at stake. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars are up for grabs here.
Yeah, that'll be a fun thing to watch. Probably Washougal through Unadilla. I'm going to say the last 4 or 3 rounds. That'll be really cool. And this is what they're all playing for. Those SMX playoffs will begin for the second year at Concord, North Carolina, outside of Charlotte, ZMAX Dragway. This time they'll know what to expect. Remember seeing RJ Hampshire, our track walk last year, saying, wait, there's really like motocross stuff? We did not test for this at all. We just thought these were big Supercross tracks. And then to that end, Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth and the drag strip, the strip at Las Vegas, new venues. So I kind of hope they don't figure it out, JT. I think it was more fun last year when they were showing up, kind of not knowing what to expect, the great unknown.
Yeah, they're going to be more prepared. That's just how these things work. Charlotte, I think they'll know exactly what the dirt's going to be like. Maybe the track's a little bit different. I kind of think Fort Worth will be Chicago-ish. To me, Las Vegas is the great unknown. We're in the desert, and literally out in the desert, out by the drag strip out there. So that's the one where I don't know how they're going to possibly know what they're going to be getting into until we show up there in late September.
That's kind of fun to not know. And we won't even necessarily know who's racing. So the bad news, as we reported earlier, the 2 superstars for Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing, Cooper Webb, Eli Tomac, both out with thumb injuries, and they both needed surgery. We heard they actually got surgery on the same day. I think it was last Tuesday. In a normal year, I don't think you see either of these guys come back. But the SuperMotocross World Championship, now I think you will. So when do they come back? How good will they be coming off the couch? And how good can they get for the playoffs? This is a really weird thing to watch. Not what we normally get, but the playoffs have gifted us this.
Yeah, this is a tough blow to lose both of these guys. And Eli Tomac, I think most people pointed at him as really challenging Jett Lawrence this summer, and maybe he can late in the championship, but it's going to be another uphill fight. We looked and watched at Eli Tomac struggle to get back to his best form all the way through Monster Energy Supercross. He kind of finally found it. That St. Louis win really marked the return. And then as soon as we get him back, we lose him again. So it's a tough blow. But yes, to your point, I think they're going to have to not necessarily rush back, but there's going to be a sense of urgency because they're going to want to be, at worst case, on their best form when we enter Charlotte. So it changes the timelines. If it wasn't for the SMX playoffs, I don't think we would see them at all this summer, but now it's almost a guarantee that we will.
Okay, so we might be lamenting great champions like Tomac and Webb not being there at the start, but the 450 class, JT, has got a nice infusion of talent from the 250s.
Yeah, you think about Justin Cooper and Hunter Lawrence, just those 2 guys alone, they are true championship contenders. Now, Jett may make me eat those words, but these guys are the real deal. They've been the best 250 motocross riders for the last few years. Their records on paper absolutely support it. So we'll see where they fit in. But I think these guys have a real chance to win motos and be on the podium week in and week out. And it's a welcome addition to an already very, very deep 450 class.
Can't wait for Justin Cooper to get a bunch of podiums, and then people will be surprised every time he gets a podium, which is exactly what happened at Salt Lake. He's good, everybody. He's especially good sometimes when he gets starts at Fox Raceway. So we'll see what he has. And then there are some veteran 450 guys coming back. Christian Craig, this elbow injury has been going on for over a year. He does plan on being at round one, maybe not 100%, but he'll be racing Fox Raceway. Aaron Plessinger told me he's back from his injury. He'll be racing Fox Raceway. Haven't seen Malcolm Stewart race much motocross in years. He's not coming off an injury this time. He was hurt this time a year ago. So this will be cool to see where these guys fit in to get their outdoor legs back under them.
Yeah, the ask won't be easy because there are lots of guys that have lots of momentum coming into this opening round. And you think about a guy like Christian Craig, he's not healthy. He knows it. He's already said it. He's going to be fighting his way back into this class. So it could be a really tough few rounds for a guy like Christian Craig. And then, he's got his teammate, Malcolm Stewart, who hasn't raced this series in a very long time. We saw, he come in for a few rounds late in the championship in 2022, but yeah, you wonder where they're going to fit in. I think AP is kind of locked in to be a top 5 guy, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of guys looking around going, am I better than you? Are you better than me? Where am I supposed to fit in this 450 class? But speaking of those two, Christian Craig and AP, they were on the Motocross of Nations team in 2023, and we are already starting to think about 2024. Who's going to be on this team? Now, how I look at it, I just love taking our best team on paper, and we did that in 2022. We saw the end result. We had won the race for the first time in 10 years, and I think we have a chance to get back there. You think about a guy like Eli Tomac, you think about a guy like Chase Sexton, and whoever happens to be the best 250 motocross rider this summer, let's hope we can take him as well. That gives us our best chance. We haven't done that many times in the last several years because of contract situations, whatever. The switch over, we had a whole, worldwide pandemic that we had to deal with. So let's just hope we can get our best team together, head over to Matterley Basin in England, and let's give ourselves a real chance this year.
Eli Tomac has said if he's healthy, he would like to race the event this year. Cooper Webb always wants to race this event. He's been begging his way back onto the team. Sexton, to the point you made, is not in a contract year. If he's healthy, he's a candidate. And I think that Hayden Deegan will go if the 450 portion of the team is strong. Bobby Regan, the team owner over there, told me last year, will go if the rest of the team is right. So, yeah, there could be an infusion of talent. That will be another thing to be watching all summer long. And now time for SMX Facts. Let's bring in our statistician, Clinton Fowler. We've talked about the Jett Lawrence win streak continuing quite a bit on this show. Give us a little context of where these 22 straight motos fits in all time.
He sits 4th all time in longest streaks. He's 9 motos behind the GOAT, Ricky Carmichael, who in 2003 to 2005 won 31 straight motos, an incredibly impressive run. So for Jett to meet Ricky Carmichael's, or to tie his, he's got to win everything through the first moto at round 5 in Southwick. So we've got a ways to go to get there. It's going to require not making mistakes. JT, should we be considering this already?
Well, can we just hold on for a second and appreciate the fact, Clinton, I think Ricky has 2 streaks that are still ahead of Jett at the moment. Can we just talk about how wild that is a second?
Yeah, JT.
I was racing during that period and I was unaware, but that is incredible to me. But yes, Jett's on his way. If he can get through, and I'll put it to you this way, if he can get through the first 4, where I think Chase Sexton is fantastic at the opening round, and I think Jett is a little bit vulnerable at the second round at Hangtown. If he gets through the first 4, it's on. I don't see a reason on paper why he won't continue all the way through. I think the best chance is right away. They've got to get him off the train, derail the momentum a little bit, put a little bit of doubt into his mind, or at least break the streak. Maybe they can't do that, but maybe they could break the streak. But this is phenomenal from Jett. This is history in the making, and he deserves all of the accolades that come with it.
So that's the big story, of course, in the 450 class. Personally, I'm just wondering, are we going to get a moto where he says, my goal is to win the title here. I don't need to risk it all to keep this win streak alive? But I said that was going to happen last year, and it never happened. So who knows? The real story, though, is the 250 class. That's what everybody's intrigued by. A complete unknown. With the last 3 championships, both Lawrence brothers out of the class. Give us some stats on that, Clinton.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the answer on who's going to win it, but we at least have an idea for who has won races in the past. And there are 7 guys, 6 for sure going to line up at the first round, that have won a Pro Motocross overall in the 250 class before. At the top of the list, you got Joey Savacci returning. He's got 7 wins. RJ Hampshire 4, Joe Shimoda 3. Hayden Deegan got 2 in his rookie season last year. And then you got Tom Vial, Jalik Swoll, and Austin Faulkner, each with 1. I look at this, it's tough to pick a favorite, but JT may be controversial, but Joey Savacci finished 3rd in the championship back in 2015 and 16, but he's not lined up on a 250 since 2018, and he didn't ride all outdoors last year. Is he a viable title contender?
I think he can be. I think much like we spoke about the 450s, he needs to start fast. The opening rounds will be very critical to that because he has so much more preparation under his belt than these other Supercross riders that have been, gallivanting across the country practicing Supercross the entire spring, where Joey is incredibly prepared. I think he's had his sights set on this date since last fall. So if he can get off to a good start, he has a chance. Now you think about guys in the past, Steve Lamson in 2000, Mike Brown in 2001, these older riders, and we talk about older, talking about guys that are late 20s or 30 years old, but experienced riders in the 250 class, if they can start fast and get out front, they know what to do. Joey's been in title fights before. He knows what it takes to win in this class. But again, I cannot stress enough how important it is for him to come out of the first couple of rounds with podium finishes or better.
And he's on the Triumph, everybody. An unknown brand. For the most part, they race Supercross and look good with Jalik Swoll. We haven't seen him in Pro Motocross yet. They've had MXGP success, but those are a little bit different spec works bikes. That is a wild one. Anybody else stick out in the stats there, Clinton?
I think you've got to recognize that Tom Vial is a 2-time GP champion. He won Southwick last year on 1-3 moto scores, so he's definitely worth mentioning. But the one for me that really sticks out, Weege, is Hayden Deegan last year at Washougal. Here's a rookie. In rookies, you expect some inconsistency, but at Washougal, man, he just dominated. He won the first moto wire to wire, set the fastest lap. In the second moto, went from 4th to 1st and took the win. He caught up to Justin Cooper. He was nearly 2 seconds a lap faster at his fastest than Justin Cooper. Absolutely incredible performance. So JT, is that a signal of what we're going to see all 11 rounds this year, or is that just a one-off thing?
Well, the secret is, how do you harness that? And you look back through history at the legends of the sport. Thankfully, we get to work with them, James Stewart, Ricky Carmichael. Some of them are still racing. They're able to bring that level every single weekend. And that's what Hayden is still in the process of figuring out how to do. But you look for these little snapshots, these glimpses into what's possible. You're exactly right, Clinton. That was a clear signal that this guy can be that legend of the sport type rider, because you can't obliterate the field the way he did that day without it being somewhere inside him. So we'll see, is this year, the more development, the more maturity, another step forward, is this the year where he can bring that week in and week out? And if he does, all of the parity talk, all of the competitiveness that we talked about going into this 250 class will be for naught, because he will run away with this thing.
Yeah, and what's funny is after Washougal, we thought that stretch run was coming, but then his bike broke at Unadilla. He was dominating a moto at Budds Creek, and it got red flagged and restarted, and then he crashed. He was sick at Ironman, so we don't know. We don't know if the Washougal Deegan is showing up every week or not. I guess that's why we got to run the races. Clinton, here's something outside the data. How exciting is it to go into round one not knowing what's going to happen?
Oh, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Love watching that first gate drop in Pro Motocross.
All right, we're looking forward to it. We'll get some stats after round one from you next week. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
All right, it's almost time to go racing. Let's show you what Fox Raceway is all about. JT, take us for a little tour.
Well, this is a really difficult racetrack because race day at a national is very, very different than what these guys practice on at this track during the week. So I think it's one of those where it's going to be a changing dynamic. It'll start out very soft, very ruddy, and gradually get harder throughout the afternoon. And that keeps riders on their toes. But you have to get a good start at this racetrack. It's very, very difficult to pass on. So watch for the first few laps. If those guys get out front, that sets them up for success much more here at Fox Raceway than maybe some of the other tracks throughout the season.
Okay, and if you want to watch it, we're on West Coast, but we'll give you the times Eastern. 1 o'clock will be Race Day Live. That is our 1 hour long qualifying session coverage show. And the motos start at 4 Eastern. Everything available on Peacock in the United States or the SMX Video Pass outside America. And gosh, there's nothing quite like it. I don't care what the track is. That opening round feel, be it Angel Stadium, Anaheim, be it Fox Raceway or anywhere, nothing to me is like those opening laps in a motorsports series where you just don't know what's going to happen, JT.
Yeah, it is. It's, again, I mention this all the time. It's one of the greatest aspects of our sport is when that gate drops, you don't know what's going to happen. And if you think you do, you're often proved wrong. So I can't wait for another season. That 250 class to me is the highlight there. It's really, truly anybody's championship. And yeah, the best part of that is somebody's going to step up and grab a hold of it.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what those guys, you think of someone like RJ Hampshire, Hayden Deegan, what they're willing to do to get that championship when it's right out there in front of them. You're going to have to watch every moto on Peacock and the SMX Video Pass. That's it for our show this week. We'll see you this weekend, Fox Raceway, Round 1, Pro Motocross.